Hi guys! Alright, so I'm finally going to do the update on my silver X4 BMW that was involved in that really big accident. This was early on this year and it was quite a long process, and what I'll do is I'll link my original video to what happened, which is actually pretty interesting, so you should definitely watch that to the end of this video and you can go back and see what the original damage looked like. I have footage from the night that it happened. So basically here's how that claim went down. That was probably the worst accident, or one of the worst accidents that I think that I've ever had, and it was a bummer because it was from such a good repeat renter of mine, and you know, it was just one of those things that just happened. I don't think he was irresponsible in any way or anything like that, but it just, you know, it can happen, and it did happen. So basically what happened was I submitted the claim, obviously the night of. This happened at night, so we had the car taken to the shop right away. They had a night drop, so I dropped it off at my shop, left the keys there so that we can be there in the morning and kind of get the process rolling. Submitted the claim the night before, and then went to the shop the next morning and actually already got the whole estimate process going. And I do that because I feel like that's a proactive approach to the whole claims process, and sometimes that helps move things along a lot faster. That way the shop is already in the know, and with the claims process you already have an estimate going. You don't kind of have to waste time doing sort of that back and forth, especially when it was damaged to this extent. So what Turo's claims department did was they actually referred me out to a third party because the scope of the damage was so bad, called DMA Claims Services, I believe. And I believe what they do is they handle claims that are to the extent of which this was. So if something is like really bad like this, or if Turo ever has overflow, I believe that they step in at that time as well. It was totally easy working with them. They didn't have the best communication, but I feel like they did work pretty swiftly on getting things done. So immediately when they referred me out to DMA sent me an email and let me know that they are working on putting together an estimate for this. So what I did was I said, hey, I already have an estimate from the shop, here it is. And then I looped in my shop to that email and I said, you guys can discuss it and figure the rest out and come to a settlement on the claim. Now, sometimes what I do when accidents happen, you know, if I know that everything is already in process and we're just waiting to come down to a number, and I'm not recommending this by any means, but this is just something I feel comfortable doing. Oftentimes what I'll do is I will have my shop get going on the repair work, even though I don't fully know what the settlement is, to help kind of save time. But in this case, because the damage was so crazy, and I just really, I thought the car was going to be totaled, so I was surprised that it wasn't. But that was because the value of the car was so high in comparison to the damage. So I wasn't sure if it was going to be totaled or not, so I did not have the shop begin any work on the car until we had a full settlement on the claim. So DMA worked with my shop directly and they came to a number, and what DMA did was, instead of sending an electronic payment like Turo Claims usually does, they actually sent me a check in the mail for the lump sum of the repairs. And then so that whole process took 1 month for them to come down to a number and send me a check in the mail for the repairs. Once I knew that the check was in the mail, I got confirmation from DMA, then I gave my shop the go ahead. Okay, you guys can start working on the damage. Because the extent of it was so bad, it took them 2 months to do the repair. So this is probably the longest ever that I had a car go down and not being able to rent it out. And of course, these things can happen. This is the one and only time that something of this extent has happened to me. So, you know, you do have to be prepared for these situations. So it was interesting working with DMA. That was the first time I ever had to do that. But, you know, it all worked out well. It took 3 months. I wish the whole process was a little bit faster. But I did talk to my shop, and they did say when damage is this bad, for it to take a month is actually a good amount of time for them to come to a settlement. So it's pretty normal. So I don't think that there's anything on their end that they could have done to expedite this process. It was just the nature of the beast. And then because of the damage, it took 2 months, so we were 3 months out of having a car that could be rented out, which was a bummer, but it all got said and done. Sorry guys, I totally forgot to mention that the repairs came out to be $30,000. So yes, It was a huge amount, the biggest I've ever seen for a claim. But yeah, that's how much it was. And just a little side note on that, what I did was when it came time to pay for the repairs, I put it on one of my rewards credit cards, so I got a ton of points for that. And then of course just use the claim money to pay that off right away. Obviously don't carry your balances, people, but you know, you want to leverage situations like this and find different ways that it can benefit you, and hopefully all those points is going to help pay for a snowboarding trip early next year. So, you know, got to try to find the silver lining in some of these situations that you can end up in. But yes, that's what I did. 30K. Wild. And in the end, actually, there was about, I think maybe like $1,500 left that came in later on and had to be filed as a supplement. And so my shop was really cool about it. What they did was, instead of me having to wait for DMA to send me another payment and then pay the shop or come out of pocket myself, my shop just said, hey, don't worry, we'll work it out with DMA. As long as you're okay with DMA sending us the check directly, then we can release the card to you and we will wait for the remainder of the balance. So my shop and DMA, they worked it out on their own, and I didn't have to wait another couple weeks to get this last piece of the payment. So sometimes you want to explore what options you have just to sort of expedite things, like I did in this case, and that worked out well. So that's pretty much what happened. If you ever get referred out to DMA, don't worry, don't freak out. I guess it does happen. I've heard of some other people, some other hosts that have had to deal with them as well, and it's been okay. I haven't heard anything negative about it. But that's kind of what happened. So, you know, you definitely have to be prepared for these situations. These things can happen. And, you know, I would have never anticipated that it would have been 3 months. I mean, I was shocked when I first heard that amount of time. So all I did was, during that time, I really just hustled hard with all my other cars. And that's when it really helps to have so many cars, because if something like this ever happens, all your other cars can really help you offset any cost that you have on a car that is not out there working for you. So that's why I kind of believe in having the quantity, because it's also sort of a backup plan for you as well. So yeah, in those months I just hustled really hard. I opened up my availability. I was super competitive. I offered more value just to make sure that all my cars, I was maximizing the amount of time that they were out and maximizing my revenue to make up for any losses on the BMW. So that's pretty much what happened with that. Hope this is helpful. And the one question that I have been thinking about for the longest time, and I haven't really heard from too many people about this, is, have you ever had your car totaled while it was out on a rental? And if it was totaled, how did things work out for you? How was the payout at the end? I'm super interested in knowing what happens when your car's been totaled. Knock on wood, that's never happened to me, but if it does, I definitely would like to be prepared in that situation. So I would love to hear from you guys about that. If anyone has any experience out there, leave it in the comments section. It'll be helpful to everybody in the community. Thanks for watching, guys. Leave me your questions in your comments, and if you like this channel, definitely subscribe. Let me know your thoughts. Have a great rest of your day, guys. We're almost into the weekend, so prep your listings for those weekend bookings and get your cars ready to go. Bye, guys.